Should be live.
And just that quickly, it's showing that we are. Welcome, everybody, to your favorite weekly episode of. Wow, I screwed up right off the bat. Your your favorite weekly series, Grace Under Pressure, where we feature and interview royal consorts from around the known world, starting with some of our favorite duchesses. This week, we're lucky enough to be joined by Duchess Anna de Apperley. Anna, I've never actually said your full name before now.
I'm impressed. You nailed it. Good job.
I've never actually had to say the whole thing. It's always just been Anna. Um, Next week, we're going to be interviewing Duchess Kiva of Antir. And now let's move on and meet our hosts.
Well, have a great week, everybody. I hope this last week has been positive for you, and we are really looking forward to Duchess Kiva next week. Of course, being an Antir, she is well known to us, and we'll see if we can squeeze out any new information from her. So our host, sitting a halfway across the country, is Sir Joel de Grace, who started in the SCA 16 years ago. And is now in Callantyre, though by way of the Outlands and Artemisia and North Shield and many other places along the way. So he has been a knight since 2018, and his consort is his wonderful lady wife, the Honorable Lady Aniela, who is currently keeping the dogs quiet in another part of the house. And I will deliver each week on a fun fact about Joel, whether he likes it or not. And this week it is that he is afraid of horses. So Joel, are we keeping tally? You're afraid of mannequins and horses. What about horse mannequins?
Oh my God, that'd be the worst. Why would you do that to me? No.
Yeah, I mean, that sounds terrible. We will never ever use that information to our advantage.
I don't believe you at all. um, and as always, I'm joined by Duchess Dagmar of Antir. Her first reign was as a princess of Sinagua in the west, and she has since gone on to have two reigns with her husband and consort, Thorin Nielsen. This week's fun fact about her, Grace, is that she's actually never even been to a Ren fair, not a single one. Even I've been to a Ren fair, and I'm a terrible nerd.
I never have. And the thing is, that's not necessarily a point of pride, because basically what we're doing is like really snobby LARPing, but in the SCA, but I've never been to a Ren fair, like the type of thing where you pay money and you go in and there's people being medieval with people wearing fairy wings and all that. I've never done it.
Pennsic, basically Pennsic.
Well, I did go to Pennsic. So if you call that a Ren fair, I called it Burning Man for really pasty people, because that's what it seemed like to me.
Yes.
And I was queen, so I got like the gourmet experience at Pennsic. But yeah, there was a lot of not medieval stuff happening there. That's fine. Shine on you, crazy diamonds. Okay, so we'd like to expend a special thank you to Ashaxi and Rifkin for hosting Grace Under Pressure on the Sisters Interview Network. We so appreciate you. And as always, Ashaxi is lurking on this call, ready to read your comments and filter any questions over that are burning in your mind that you just can't wait to ask. And Joel, would you please introduce our wonderful guest this week?
We'll be so happy to. Everybody watching, thank you for joining us. We are so lucky this week to be joined by Duchess Anna of the Outlands. She is a Laurel, a Pelican, a walker of the way. She's reigned 4 times. She gave me my first fighting award actually back in 2011. Has been a friend of mine for a very long time. It's actually my tattoo artist also. And we have a couple pieces of her art hanging in our house. Anna, thank you so much for joining us this week.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm super honored to be with you guys. This is awesome.
Hey, so she's a tattoo artist, Joel. So by hanging, do you mean like on your arms, or?
Well, no, I think I have 3 tattoos from you, but they're all on my leg, actually. No, she does like beautiful print work also, and
cool.
We got a couple of them up in the house.
Awesome. That's great. Well, we like to always start these questions off with a softball, and that is, tell us about your SCA origins and what brought you to the SCA, Anna.
All right. So actually, by contrast, I used to go to the Ren Fair all the time. It was our big like Father's Day occasion, and we would go, and I thought it was adorable, and I loved it, and I wanted to dress up. And so when I got to college and saw the like activity fair that was happening, and there was like drumming and dancing and fencing, and I was like, these are my people. And like I was a dance major at the time, so it was like dancing plus costumes. I'm in 100%. And that was 19 years ago, which is horrifying to think, but that's when I started finding it. I played kind of like slowly while I was in college, but shortly after I graduated, I ended up dating a gentleman who was a Duke, and then I like right off into raining and all of that jazz. So I like dove in pretty steadily as soon as I graduated.
Yep. Right into the deep end.
Yeah.
And what about your persona? What's your shtick?
That's a real tough question. I'm not gonna lie. I dabble. I'm like a ooh, that's pretty kind of girl. So I'm more of a like I'm a bookbinder, and I wear different clothes that are pretty is really more. I tend to wear a lot more of the Norse garb, and obviously I've started dabbling in Bruce. I have some good friends who are amazing at creating lovely outfits, but yeah. So I guess I don't really have a super.
You could call yourself a dilettante, or you could say that you're well-rounded. I mean, there's lots of ways to think about it. You're a dim sum SCA person. You're a smorgasbord. I don't know.
Smorgasbord. That sounds right.
Smorgasbord.
I feel like a smorgasbord. Like
wait. Yeah, I think smorgasbord is a thing that needs to happen. Is there a smorgasbord? I'm not going to Google it right now, but if there isn't a smorgasbord, don't you think there should be?
Yes, there 100% should be. Yes, and I feel like they're the tastiest bard out there.
I mean, I'm not a fan of pickled fish, but we're getting off topic. Sorry. But I think it would be funny, the smorgasbord. If it isn't a thing, it needs to be a thing.
Dag, we need to be careful about how many new bards we create, because didn't we create an ass herald during one of our interviews also?
We did. Because in on tier, everything's Leonis. And our charming silent co-host, I think was she the one who said the anus Leonis? And there's been some other suggestions, and there was some heraldry drawn up by one of our former guests, family member. So yeah. Anyway.
All right. So
yeah.
We're going to move this one line along before we do. So you've had you've been fortunate, and you've had several reigns, and I lived in the Outlands during during a few of them, and I always enjoyed your the time you had on the throne. What would the version, the experienced version of you go back and tell you before your first reign, or what advice would you give to a consort that hasn't had a reign yet, just based off of your experience?
I think that the most important thing that I kind of learned, and something that I think would have been super useful at the beginning, was like, don't buy into your own hype. Like, it's really easy to believe that the adoring throngs are truly adoring, and many of them are, but it's also it's very easy to allow that to kind of inflate your ego, and to sort of reassure you that you can do no wrong, or that all of your decisions are the one and only way. And I think it's important to like listen to a lot of perspectives, and really like value those people who are like not afraid to be like, you have spinach in your teeth, like those are the things that you need to hear in those moments when you have all of the control and the decision-making power. And I think those are like really important things. And that's kind of like the advice I give people in their vigils too, is like, you're in a place of, you're in a very special place of privilege where people are going to be looking up to you and your behavior, and just like make sure it's the best. Like you're you're the face of your kingdom, you're the face of the Outlands, you're the face of the Knights, or the Laurels, or whatever it is. And like, step it up. Don't be slacking, so I guess that would be my, like, yeah, be well-rounded, be the best you can be, and don't assume that everything you're doing is right.
Well, and if you're too important for somebody to tell you you have spinach in your teeth, then you're probably also not going to hear if you really, really need to hear something, right? Like, hey, what you're doing is harming people, or a friend of yours is not the person you think they are, or whatever it is. That when you have privilege, you don't have the luxury to not know those things, right?
Right. And with, like, being tied to, like, peers that you create, and the choices that you make, you're tied to those forever. And if you don't, like, use your best judgment and have all of the information, like, you're gonna just make a butthead out of yourself during your reign. Like, and that's, and I'd like to think, like, knock on wood, that I, like, didn't do that too hard. But I think it's sort of like, now looking back on it, and those times, I'm like, man, I thought people really thought I was, like, hot stuff. And like, we all have our end date. Like, that's also sort of the beauty of being crowned, is like, if you don't like who it is, exactly when they're done, and, like, you have your start and your end, and, like, that's the time that you have to make a difference. But that's also, like, your expiration date. And things are very different, like, when you step down. And
So I actually have a question that's not on the list, and this is for both of you, Anna and Ag. After your consort wins crown, how many new Facebook or, like, Instagram follows do you get? Do you, like, just see, like, a huge uptick in new friends every time?
So
That's funny.
Just curious. I mean,
so many. I'm gonna jump in on this one. Like, yes, so many, but also, like, I wouldn't say that they're all, like, bad either, like, or have, like, necessarily negative connotation. Like, it's other royals, it's their heads of house, it's people who are affiliated with them, who have, like, business with you, in addition to, like, all the other people. But there is, like, for sure, a huge uptake. But sometimes it's just like getting business.
I was just curious.
I will say that for myself, I just didn't respond to them. I mean, I use my Facebook for most of the people on my Facebook are not people from the SCA, even though, I mean, I have like 1,200 Facebook friends. I'd say maybe half are SCA. So I think that it's important to keep that balance and use lots of filters. And, my political views and personality can rub people the wrong way if they don't know what they're getting into. So if the SCA is the only thing we have in common, yeah, I don't apologize. I don't pull punches in my own life. And that includes, when people exhibit behaviors that I think are harmful, I'm not going to hold back on what I think about that. So for that reason, I actually used my heads of retinue pretty liberally as a filter. So rather than joining, for example, a group under my own volition, I would have the secretary of an order post the words of the crown for me instead of my posting, that sort of thing. And it helped me to have a filter between my brandishing myself, my words, and the impact of them, so that, because you can't take anything back, and so I was actually pretty conservative in accepting those friend requests or whatever. So
interesting. I was, like, completely the opposite, and I don't think there's any. I was just like, yeah, I guess you kind of look like SCA, but I also deal with a lot of my, like, business through Facebook.
Yeah.
Like my mundane SCA, or my mundane tattoo business.
Right.
And there's so much crossover, it's really difficult to keep them separate. So I've just kind of come to where I'm selective about what I post. But you're going to get Olive Anna, no matter what it is.
Yeah. Yeah.
So to steer things
Joel,
to
did that answer your question?
it totally did. I'm going to ask a little bit of a follow-up here on a slightly more humorous subject. You've had 4 reigns, and what is kind of like a funny mistake that you learned from, or like an early experience where you look back on it and you're able to chuckle at it, but you were able to realize that you may have made a mistake, or you may have did something that you wouldn't do now, but that you were able to kind of learn from, I guess.
I got like this close to dropping F-bombs like left and right. So like that's really hard for me. And I also like sometimes I didn't write things down. And I don't know about you, but in the heat of the moment, my brain turns to mush and I get really nervous and I forget people's names. And like that was the worst thing for me, was like, oh, I'll remember this person's name, it'll be fine. And then I'd end up like having to describe their boots or their like hat or something to like call them up, and I was like, this is terrible, what are you doing, you know? And like it was such an easy solution, just write it down. Yeah, that's probably like, I'm not super fancy with my mouth, so
That's a good quote. I think I'm going to write that down.
It is funny though, because you meet so many people when you're reigning, and you know, it's hard because you want to imprint on all of them and just be like, oh, I'm totally going to remember this. This was really special. But you're like a big guy with a beard, had clothes. I don't know.
His name started with Thor something, like you're like, that could be 68 people, like who knows?
It was Squire. It was the Squire one.
Right.
That's so funny. So what is a typical reign like in the Outlands? You know, we do a little bit of inner kingdom anthropology on this series, and you know, it's fun to kind of dive into that. You know, how are you staffed? You know, do you have retinue or court, or do you, you know, how is your guard structured, that sort of thing?
Yeah. All right. So we have a fairly short duration as Prince and Princess. It's only 2 months. So kind of like gotta be on it. Typically you have like a head of house, head lady in waiting, ladies, guards, but then those like more intimate positions, like the Queen's Champion is actually in one of my reigns, I changed it. It used to be determined by tournaments, and then now it's a selected position, or the queen can do it how she wants, but it's typically a selected position, and then there's like a queen's favor tournament sort of in that place, so you can like get somebody who really knows like what kind of like you need for business. But then there are some other tournaments, like the Protector of the Queen's Heart is a rapier tournament, and then there's a Defender of the Queen is the like cut and thrust tournament. But typically like the king picks his dudes, the queen picks her ladies and dudes, and then there are only a few like positions that are selected by a tournament or whatnot, kind of those positions of honor. It's kind of neat. The queen is the patroness of the Order of the White Scarf, as well as the Order of why am I? It's because I had a little bit of wine earlier. I can't think of the word. But the sharp arrows are our grant level archery is also like the queen is the patroness of those, so she is often like seen at their big tournaments and competitions, things like that. I'm trying to think. Our crown coronations are very similar. Like there's very little deviation in, theater pageantry. There might be a grand entrance or something, but usually it's very structured in that the king crowns the first king crowns the next king directly. There's no break, there's no deviation from that. Even if he were to die in the theatrics, he does this first, which is this magical moment. And when the crown comes off, everyone who has a shiny thing on their head will take it off, much in the tradition, like in the English tradition, where nobody has power control that comes anywhere but from the crown. And so like it's symbolic in that moment to like take it off until the next crown is crowned. And it's just such a cool moment. Like that's one of my favorite things. And we have some cool traditions. Like every person who's been knighted in the Outlands includes a link from their chain on the baby knight's chain, and every knight is knighted with this same chain, and it's huge. Just like one day we're gonna have a wheelbarrow to like bring it in. It's ridiculous, but it's so cool, like to see the history and just to see the way that these like baby knights treasure it, and old knights going, "That's my chain right there,"
Do they really all sound like Grover?
Yeah.
Old knights from the Outlands sound like.
Yes.
We have a Muppet court. I'm actually not lying when I say we have a Muppet court sometimes in one of our silly baronies. So yeah, I think it just rubs off on our knights. They all sound like Grover.
I'm imagining also these knights with their gradually diminishing chains until they're like, "This is my last link. I don't know what to do. I need to go back to that lamp store and get some." I mean, if they're old knights, right? Come on. Let's be honest. A lot of lamp chain was happening there, dudes. We know.
Still, yeah.
Somebody on the comments, Sir, I'm sorry if I say this wrong, Valora, is that right? From Eight and Belt?
Yeah.
Yeah, they asked if there was a popular expectation or tradition that blindsided you as queen. So something that you were like, "Oh, I didn't know I had to do this," or "I didn't know this was expected of me."
I mean, sort of, yes. There's this, so Duchess Faiz and I had this hysterical conversation one time about the way that which, like, people will come up to you and they'll be like, "I made you these chocolates. I'm going to watch you eat it now."
Yeah.
And you're like, oh, all right. And, like, you have to eat things. You have to, and people will watch you do it, and it's funny. And I don't know how it got out, and I think pickles are fine, but there was a rumor in my third grade that I loved pickles, and people were like, "Here you go, here you go, here you go. I heard you." And I was like, "What's happening? Is this some giant 8-month prank?" I don't know, but people would stay there and watch you. This is a good pickle, thank you.
And let's be honest, folks, there's a wide range of palatable pickles out there.
Yeah.
They're not all good. And I feel the same way about anybody's homemade alcohol. And I'm like, I'm probably not going to like this. You probably shouldn't have me judge this contest. You shouldn't let me try it. It's going to taste like formaldehyde to me. I'm not going to like it. And don't give it to me. Give it to my husband. He'll drink it.
Absolutely.
So,
But in that same vein, isn't it weird? I remember being like, "Yeah, do you need an A&S judge? I'd be happy to help." And people are like, "Oh no, it's okay." And then suddenly I'm Princess and they're like, "Come judge A&S." And I was like, I know as much today as I knew last week. And it's weird.
it's weird.
I don't know anything about alcohol. It's good. It's not tasty. I don't know.
I know. It's like if you want me to bestow a token of what I like, that's a very different thing. So yeah.
Yes, absolutely.
That is really interesting because the title doesn't confer any special experience or knowledge.
No.
At all. So
yeah.
But like you said earlier, wear that privilege lightly and be aware that you can in that moment have the humility to say, "I really don't know anything about this, but how about I bring this person over?" Or how about you know, we
Mhm.
do this other thing. But I feel the same. And it's also, you know, to get a little modern about this, I look at what you put in your body as being on a consent continuum, and
Mhm.
that what we consent to eat or not eat should be something that people don't privilege people, or people don't pressure people into doing, because what you put in your body is really deeply personal, and also sometimes is really fraught with things that maybe someone doesn't want to have to explain their food allergy to you, or maybe they just don't want to eat a stranger's food. And so I think helping people understand that side of it, you know, I get to decide what happens to my body, and that includes what I put into it, and that includes not feeling guilted into eating your food. So but how do you do that gracefully so you don't crush someone's spirit, right?
Absolutely.
I don't like onions. So there you go, everybody watching from home.
Horses, mannequins, and onions.
I'm not afraid of onions. I just don't like them. Horses and mannequins, I'm afraid of. So
If I just put them all in the same category, it'll make it easier for me to remember. Like
That's
in my
fair.
mind palace, now there's a horse mannequin with onions festooned around its neck.
Ew.
So I know to just avoid all three of those. So I know, but that's a very individual thing, you know, onions, and some people are allergic to onions, you know, so that's something, you know, I think often in any rain, you know, it's not just things that you eat, but it's like scented things, or like all of the things that people, and it is like so generously meant, you know, and
Yes.
so, you know, it's probably important to make sure that your retinue has people on it who really like bath bombs.
Yeah.
And scented candles and homemade spice mixes. Like you need to have people that you can give that stuff to. So yeah.
Yep.
So,
There's a free tip for you, Joel, if you ever
pro tip.
rain.
Well, I'm gonna keep trying until I either get broken or we win one. So we'll see what happens.
Do you, so really quick though, do you guys have a camping culture in the Outlands? I'm not actually sure how you do events there.
Yes, absolutely. Summer is camping season, winter is feasting season. We definitely camp. We're very rugged campers. There's nowhere lovely in the Outlands to camp. It's all rocky mountains, cactus, juniper. It's gross, but we are in it. We like bonding through adversity. We drove 8 hours to get here. We're going to have fun. We're going to camp in this dust storm, and it's going to be great. But I think that like that makes us very strong in our bonds with people, because we get wind blasted and we have dust and things are not pleasant. Outlands autocrats, get some damn showers. Just saying that. But one day we will have showers at events and they'll be pleasant. But until then, we're going to love each other and have fun at these like dusty camping events. And yeah, so we definitely do that all summer in, you know, not COVID summers. So
I think Battlemore is the biggest event I've ever been to that didn't have shower trailers at it. Not complaining, I'm just making an observation.
I'm complaining. It's okay.
Because the last Battlemore I went to, I think there was like over 1,200 people or somewhere around that.
Oh, wow.
It's a sizable event, especially for a Midwestern kingdom. And yeah, it was, and it's at like 9 million feet altitude too. There's no oxygen on site anywhere to be heard. So
Yeah, we don't have shower trucks at on-tier events, generally speaking, but they're big, but they're not that big. But plus it's probably going to rain. So just suck it up, Buttercup. Like you're going to be cold and wet. So, I mean, I don't know. I think we just all smell bad and it's cold enough that we don't notice, or I don't know.
Yeah.
Or somebody's gotten a motel room and everybody goes and uses the shower there. So
Yeah, there's that. I will say Battlemore, like not far from there, there's like a hot springs, and you pay your $15 and you sit in the river with the hot spring, and then you get a shower, and then you go back to site, and it's manageable. But we need more accessible showers, in my opinion. But
yeah, totally.
I'm not disagreeing. So you touched on it a little bit earlier, and I wanted to kind of circle back on it. Your kind of go-to visual advice, and this is just kind of like the the general frame. Obviously, I know you kind of cater it to the person and what's relevant to them, but like what's like the kind of the core of what you like to impart during a vigil advice when when you poke your head into the tent.
Yeah, I think the foundation is really just seek advice and accept it with humility, right? Like it's so everybody take a drink. Like when I was queen, my first thing I learned, really spending time in the ship circle, was how little perspective there was from the 50% of women who play this game, right? Like we were talking about a candidate and all of these knights were just blown away by him as a candidate. And I had literally just come from a conversation with some ladies in waiting who were disgusted by his behavior and horrified that we believed that he was being talked about. And I brought this information to the circle and I was like, go home and ask your ladies, ask your wives, ask your daughters, like how you feel about these candidates. And the next time we met, everybody was like, why are we talking about this guy? Let's reset. And so anyway, that was the big story to say, like, I think we get lost in our bubbles of, we talk to our friends and we kind of have these echo chambers. And if we don't talk to the fringy players or the non-peers or the, like if we're gentlemen, we don't talk to ladies, and we're ladies, we don't talk to gentlemen. And if we're, all of those things, if we don't really seek like a well-rounded perspective before we go to circles, like we're not really bringing like fair counsel to the crown. And I think that that's really important to do. And, like, I'm not saying break circle in order to do that. I'm saying like have conversations with people. So many of our problems arise because we don't have conversations. We don't speak honestly with one another. And I think that's really a key thing. We just need to speak honestly and talk with a variety of people and not stay in our bubbles.
And to do it earnestly, not as, not as a pro forma, oh, I'm going to do this to check this box, and just do it as a courtesy, and, give somebody the illusion that their contributions are actually going to be weighed in this decision, right? Yeah. Because that's how, I'm sure that this is true in every kingdom. There were people who are really surprised by some of the things that came out after the Me Too movement. Yes. Really emboldened some people to be able to be more vocal about things that had happened. And, there was this attitude in some circles of, well, why didn't anybody say something? Or we asked and they didn't say. And it's like, well, if you don't give the impression that you're going to actually do something meaningful with this information, then why would somebody put themselves out there and accept the risk of giving you good counsel?
Yes.
Because it is risky. It's a gift.
Absolutely. It is so uncomfortable to have that conversation. And, and then we see good, or people that we thought were good, like doxing these people who have spoken out, and people you think you trust, like speaking ill of them. And it's just a very, like, it's a volatile time to try to be, be vulnerable.
Because we talk about, so it's one thing to have a disagreement with somebody, but what about just feeling really disappointed by something that happens? How do you manage disappointment? And how do we come back from it as a group where trust and respect is such a huge part of how we get things done, right? And one part of our values. So, but when you feel disappointed in somebody, it's one of the very worst feelings I can think of, because you're not just thinking about their behavior, but you're also thinking about your own discernment and judgment,
Absolutely.
So, and that's when you're reigning, like all of that just gets so distilled and concentrated, where you're like, I had no idea this person was such a jackhole. And now, like, I have no choice but to treat them with grace. And so, what am I going to do?
Yes. And that's that thing. Like, it's really easy to be like, but they were nice to me. They were nice to me. Like, but did we see the way they treated Jill Newcomer or whatever? Like, or that lady who's speaking up and is not being believed or anything like that. Like, we get so tied up, and I don't think that we need to set aside our own experiences, but I think we need to be willing to listen from somebody else's experience too. Like,
Yeah. Well, and it speaks to the importance of having great mentors, and those people that are your hub of trust, that no matter what position you hold, you can always go to those people and they will tell you honestly what they think. Do you have mentors that you want to call out right now and
oh,
celebrate a little bit?
I love that. Yes. Man, so many. I've been blessed with so many amazing people. I want to start out with Countess Anstis. She is one of the most joyful voices of wisdom I have ever encountered, and she's that person I go to when I'm like, am I being crazy? My feelings, I'm having so many feelings, right? Like, I go to her and she reminds me to work from joy and be true to myself. And she's amazing. She knows everything. So if you don't know something, you should go to Anstis because she knows it. And she's joyful in sharing that information. She's wonderful. I've had some of my best people, my most loyal, they're spinach in your teeth people, Baroness Kalyan, Lady Saihan, Baroness Aurelia. Those are my three, they have my back in the hardest situations. They're the ones who will tell me the truth. They're 100% amazing. Sir Elric, who was my champion twice and had my back when girls were mean to me and when times were hard. And I totally think he's the best person. And, he sometimes is a controversial person because he tells it like it is, but he's not wrong when he tells it like it is. And those are, off the top of my head, I could talk all day about amazing people, but those are the people who
have the whole,
I've been really blessed.
Wild Turks. So what is it? The Wild Turks? Is that the?
Oh yes, the Mysterious Turks. There might be a picture of one.
Well, let's actually go to photos now since we're talking about people. Right. I'm going to just do a share screen and we can just go through the photos and we'll just go through all, since there's only 7 of them, let's just go through all of them together. Okay.
There is one of the most mysterious Turks. Unfortunately, you can't see. Oh, you actually can see, even in the distance, there are 3 others behind me sneaking around. These mysterious Turks are phenomenal at reminding people that chivalry should be for everyone. They are perhaps some of the best attendees I've ever had. They're absolutely the best. So they'll show up once in a while.
That's great.
Yeah.
This wasn't actually the first slide. I'm going to go back and to this one, which is really cute.
Thank you. Oh, this is at the Valkyrie Rose tournament with some of my lovely friends from Kai. That's Duchess Faiza and Duchess Mora. And the Valkyrie Rose tournament is just one of my favorite Rose tournaments. It really focuses on honor on the field, really more than victory. And it's just a super fun time to hang out with friends. This is actually a really hard picture to talk about, but it is one of my favorite ones. My dear friend Anna Lee from Ethelmark. I don't know if you know, 2 summers ago at Battlemore, her husband Titus passed away. It was a really difficult event, but I have had the most amazing friendship with such an amazing woman ever since then. We truly bonded, and I think she is like one of the strongest humans on the entire planet and just one of my favoriteest people ever. So that was the morning after he passed when she returned to sight and was strong and brave and beautiful and did all of the things that Titus would have wanted her to do.
Wow.
Yeah. This is Grand Outlandish. I am holding Thunderhead, which is the Warlord Axe. I attended that event on my own, and I had never accepted fealties by myself. And that was one of just the coolest days of my whole life. Holding that axe, which is way freaking heavier than you think it is, and accepting fealty from the peers was just magic. Having those people like look at you with all earnesty and swear fealty is the most awe-inspiring thing that can happen in a ring, pretty much. This is 3 of my Queen's Graces. These are all people I recognized with the Queen's Grace at the end of my reign. And from left to right, left is Master Hockrell, Sir Elric, and Lady Alexandria, and they all just have been amazing, like in ways I cannot express, the ways that they have like served and been friends and counselors and picked up pieces when things went messy and traveled 1 billion hours for a 5-hour event and just been like the bestest. Yeah, I love these people so much. This might be like a little bit of a selfish picture. So this was me walking in to get my pelican, and I was crown princess, and I will tell you that I did not feel like I was deserving of a pelican, and I felt like I really needed to have the coolest procession in the history of processions, and so I did like a Norse toast to all of the people who had inspired me along my journey. And we toasted them and we drank and we cheered. And it was really, I like felt like a rawr kind of rawr woman, like doing my own thing. Cause I heralded myself with this big booming drum behind me.
I think this is the last one.
And this is part of, this is not everyone, but this is part of my household. Amazing women. We love to have fun together. That is Lady Aedzel, Duchess Astrid, Lady Alexandria, her ladyship Sophia, and Lady Sihon and her little babe girl. And we are just being silly. And I love these women. I wish I had a picture with all of us, but this is the best one I could find. So
that's great.
I think it's important to not take ourselves too seriously. So yeah.
And everyone in your household that I've ever met, they've always been just fantastic and know when it's time to be serious, when it's time to joke around a little bit. So yeah, I've always really liked the people that you have in your chosen family. Just
I've been really blessed. I have amazing people surrounding me, and yeah, I'm super lucky.
Tell us about your art that you do in the SCA. You're a Laurel.
I am.
So love to hear about that.
Okay, so the Outlands is kind of unusual in that we don't proclaim like this is why you got your laurel, but we do really recognize people for things. So I believe I was recognized for my bookbinding, which I did a lot of. A whole bunch of bookbinding for various people, visuals, things like that. Sometimes after we spend a lot of time in certain arts, we kind of get tired of those and find new things. But I've always enjoyed Middle Eastern dance and drumming. I've always enjoyed calligraphy and illumination and costuming, although I do not research those as thoroughly as I did bookbinding. But bookbinding really, for a very long time, was my one true passion. And it's an interesting and sort of rare art in the SCA. Like it's growing for sure, but there aren't a whole lot of people who do it.
I'll have to connect you with our Kingdom bookbinder geek.
I would love that. That would be
Making
amazing.
a note right now.
Yes, please. Yeah. Oh, very cool.
We got a little out of order on our questions. You go ahead, Joel.
I have no idea where we're at on this one.
That's
So
all
I'm
right.
actually just gonna pick one. One of the things that I know you've always been really passionate about is the recognition and using your time in the spotlight to recognize other people. If there was an award though that you could create, just snap into existence, no politics, and this can be on any level, what would that award be, and what would the recognition be for?
Oh.
Yeah, we're getting real.
This is hard.
Anything you want.
Anything I want. I mean, it's going to be ineloquent. We're going to have to come up with a much fancier title. It's going to be like the Golden Bitches That Got Your Back Award. Like, I don't know what it's, but they're golden because you definitely want them close. But I think going back to that, again, and the people who will tell you have spinach in your teeth are the ones that, sorry, I just saw that comment. So I was just,
Ashaxi's heckling us, you guys. You can't see it, but it's funny. Just
it's really good. No, you're good. You're totally good. I just was easily distracted. I'm not gonna lie. But I think having those people there who are going to have your back when times get hard, but tell you the truth of the matter and be that person who's willing to, I experienced a whole lot of mean girl mentality and oh, who's prettier and who's standing in front of your throne and blah, 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 all this stuff. And I knew that I had a small group of people who it didn't matter what, they weren't in it for the awards, they weren't in it for the cookies. And yet I want to give them a big giant cookie, a giant golden scroll to say, thank you for having my back. And I guess we've got the Queen's Cipher and the Queen's Grace and things like that, but there's something bigger that wouldn't necessarily have to be a direct recognition, but just a thank you for being that person in circle who doesn't, couch your words in mystery or hope somebody else will speak up, but the people who are really true. So maybe you guys can help me come up with a new title, but that's the one.
Well,
So
before
the badass bitches that have your back award.
Yeah.
That's perfect to me.
before we got super mad at J.K. Rowling, we were talking about, not in a formal sense, but giving out the Neville Longbottom Award.
Yes. Yes.
Sticking up to your friends,
Mm-hmm.
not for your friends, to your friends,
Yes.
but it's that same idea of, and I think part of that though is, you and I haven't known each other more than this last week when we were introduced to do this interview, but I'm guessing that the reason people feel comfortable telling you what what they do is because you make it safe for them to do that. And that comes from trust, and that comes from acting on those, acting on the advice that you get and respecting it. And, you know, that says something about you. And I know that in the SCA, especially if you've reigned or you have a big personality, or, you know, you have privilege, it also means that your life and your personal life play out across the society. And so you really need to know that there's going to be people that will be there for you as your personal life becomes public, right?
Yes. And as we spoke about, just like right before we started, like about a year ago, I split from my partner. Oh, a little year and a half ago, I split from my partner, who was my fighter and king, and partner of well over a decade. And it's been a very difficult journey this last year and a half, kind of navigating who are those people who like have your back and like really were there for the right reasons, and the people who were there for those reasons of privilege. And like navigating my role has been difficult, like very much so, in like recognizing that so much of my privilege came from someone else, and not like I thought I was like doing all this work and laying this groundwork and creating my own like social currency and probity and all of that, and like kind of seeing like watching that like wash away and get filtered out as people like sort of follow where like the popularity is or the ability for recognition or various things. So it's been a tough filter and a tough pill to swallow as you kind of like navigate your way through like who deserves my energy going forward and who deserves my trust and things like that. It's yeah.
Yep. I think there's probably a lot of people that can relate to that. Or if you're, I mean, even if it's not something where you have a lot of privilege, but you just are with somebody who's maybe more outgoing or has more social connections. In the SCA, it can feel really lonely to watch that person go on having the same friends and connections.
Yeah.
Yeah. But when you're a public figure, which you are in the SCA, you know, it's also sort of dismaying and disappointing to see sometimes how people, well, I mean, let's be honest, a lot of this comes down to the inherent sexism that our society the SCA is structured on, you know, and the way power has over a lot of the SCA's history has been the way power is given or the way power is recognized. So
Yes.
that's a big part of this.
Absolutely. I worked so hard. So my my fighter was a duke like when we started dating. I was Lady Anna, and I worked so hard. I kept being called and company. Like he would walk into camp and people would be like, "Oh, it's Duke so and so and company." Right? And I was like, "Can I please have a name? Like I don't need a title, but can you recognize me as another like entity of myself?" And I worked so hard to be recognized on my own and to like have a reputation of my own and whatnot. And then, you know, I felt like for many years, I felt like I created that. Like I'd worked hard, I had reigns, I achieved my own peerage, things like that, that I felt like I had achieved. And in this last year, it's really made me question those things because, you know, I see the way that like the flow of energy continues like one direction, and like the people in my closest circle have remained there, but like there's been definitely a filter away, and like kind of recognizing that privilege that I had where I thought that I had achieved all these things on my own. And, you know, I question a lot of that now. Like, was it because I was Duchess Anna, who could be queen any day, like it could happen again. And you know, it's definitely, ooh, it's an icky pill that like to navigate your own like standing in this group, where it's become like there's been this shift towards like almost like these check boxes of like, oh, I selfied with this person and I selfied with this person, and it's not like we're moving away from like actual like accomplishments or like behavior or reputation, and more towards like what is going to get me like more likes on Facebook or more like probity with my social circle, or like, and it's just icky. I'm sorry, I'm talking way too long, but
No. I think it's very important to have these conversations, because the values that we espouse as a society, are we actually upholding them? And, you know, how do we prioritize things like honor or, you know, the virtues that we, especially that the society was founded on, you know, are we promoting beauty? Are we promoting chivalry as we like to understand it? You know, and the answer needs to be yes, or else we're just in costumes. And I mean, we're LARPing then.
yeah, absolutely.
There's nothing wrong with LARPing, ladies and gentlemen. I just want to be really clear. We do not need to receive any angry emails from you.
And actually, I want to throw in there that I know, Anna, you know, you and I have known each other for long time. And you made a correction to me years ago that actually always stuck with me, where people that may be watching may not know me from a long time ago, or they may, and recognize the change in the direction I've been able to take my life since then. But I was at an event and I was walking by, and like I said something that was completely and wildly inappropriate. It wasn't directed at you. It was because I dropped something actually, and I broke it, and I said something wildly inappropriate, and you turned around and you corrected me on the language that I use, because I didn't ever think about what the implications of the language I was using, what it meant behind it. And that's something that I very clearly remember. And it happened twice in the Outlands, and I remember both moments crystal clear, because it was you and Countess Mathilde on two separate occasions that corrected that behavior. So I know that you stand up for the values that you're talking about, because you're a huge part of the reason why I can now say I share those same values and trying to move forward and things. So wow. I just wanted to throw that out there, but you know, that much love.
That's high praise. That's lovely. And I think I mean, gosh, any one of us would aspire to be that kind of an example. So that's really special. Yeah.
So I want to circle into. We have had a heavy conversation tonight. It has been amazing. I've really enjoyed this. And one of the things I want to ask now is that, what is keeping you going in the SCA? Are you still enjoying the SCA? Do you? I know you don't really participate much in like the virtual world of things. I don't want to say the ESCA, but you know, the virtual side. Are you? What's keeping you going in the SCA like right now?
Others. I'm really struggling. My field of those things is very shallow, and like it's not full right now. It's not thriving, but the people I love are keeping me going, honestly. There are, let me get a little verklempt here. Uhtred, Germanicus, and Fjordborker are like, I'm going to call them out, top of my list of gentlemen of my heart, these young up-and-comers who have such incredible passion, and they are doing the right things for the right people, for the right reasons, and I love them so much. And like, it's so weird. I feel like I like an old lady around them, and I'm like, come on, little boys, you can do it, and like they're not even like that much younger, but like I just love that, like I see this energy in them that's just like vibrant, and I want to make them everything. Like I want to make them clothes, I want to like send them energy, like whatever it is, they're so wonderful. So like they're keeping me going. I started dating a wonderful new guy who's like brand new and has all of the like newbie energy, and he's like he wants to like he's fighting, he's artsing, he's autocrating, he's doing everything, and like all of these things that I would have zero energy for, like I want to see him succeed. And so like when he gets excited, I do my best to like give him all of that too. Like honestly, those are probably the two things that are like the young kids, and like Mr. Frosty. Yeah, he's the other one.
Well, we feel especially fortunate that you would pull yourself online for us to do this interview and to have an opportunity to talk a little bit about both what motivates you and what the Outlands experience of you has been, which is also pretty fabulous. We're getting some lovely comments on the Facebook feed. I hope you'll go and read them and see the affection that people do have for you. And, we all get dressed up in costumes and we go and we stand in a cow pasture and drink and pretend to be medieval or whatever semblance of it that we do. But when it comes right down to it, I think a lot of us, what keeps us is those shared values that you were talking about in terms of, just the consideration that we should have for each other. And that includes a certain amount of that, well, I guess humility. I mean, that's a virtue we all have to have, and to be able to say when we know better, do better. Which is really important. And I think that what's the common thread through all of the Duchess interviews we've done so far is that that's really top of mind for people, when to aspire to be better than you were, and to do your best for people. So thanks for being a Rose that understands that. We really appreciate it.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I appreciate it. It's so nice to have a like-minded individual to talk to and share those feelings with too. Like we really
you two
are
going to be really good friends.
I know that. I feel like this has mostly just been a matchmaking service for Joel to get me new friends, because every time we interview somebody, I'm like, oh, I totally need to add them on Facebook. I need to
I've got awesome friends.
stalk their art page. I need to.
I have got awesome friends. So
yeah, I love it. So one of the things that we like to do as we close up these interviews is to pretend like we're all sitting in court and we're going to give you a gift basket. We can't actually give you a gift basket, but so this is a virtual gift basket that we're going to give you. And my head of retinue would have gone to your head of retinue and asked some important questions about like your diet and all of that. So let's just do that quickly right now. Dark chocolate or milk chocolate?
Ooh, dark.
Dark? Okay.
Dark.
And you said wine. Are you a white wine or a red wine drinker?
Sangria drinker.
Sangria, that's okay.
Yeah.
And are you more of a puppy or a kitten person?
Puppies.
Puppies.
Good job, Joel.
I know he's not trying to influence you or anything. So,
no.
So we're giving you like this beautifully presented gift basket that has no handles. That's the most important thing, that the basket not have handles on it.
Yeah.
Right. So you can get it, you can pack it home. Some lovely like Seattle based dark chocolate, maybe some Theo chocolate, something unusual. Definitely a bottle of that like $6 sangria that comes in the triangular shaped bottle.
It's the best one.
It's the best.
The best one.
I mean, you're gonna feel sick the next day, but just do it. It's so good. And then if you're already full of puppies, we can give you a puppy, but I'm thinking maybe you just get to hold a puppy for the event.
Okay. I mean,
That would be
that's-
okay
that's
too.
fine. Yeah. Yeah.
It's really up to you. Otherwise,
any puppies, that's fine.
okay.
Like,
Otherwise,
if it's
we're
a
gonna get
baby, I
you.
just want to hold it and give it back. But if it's a puppy, I might take it.
That's
home.
totally fair. And so how about it's going to be the pound puppy that nobody wanted, but is actually your best friend in the
Yes.
making.
Yes.
And
Isn't that what
just
wasn't
nobody
Captain
else
Pickles a
recognized
pound
it. What's that, Joel?
puppy? Captain Pickles, wasn't he a pound puppy or?
Captain Pickles he was a foster puppy I adopted, yes.
See, that's the best. And then since this is a virtual basket and we can put anything we want in it, there's a book that Ashaxi recommended called Ancient Ink, The Archaeology of Tattooing, which is one that has a lot of like the old Scythian artwork in it. And so there would definitely be a copy of that. So, first edition signed copy of this fantasy book that we can't give you. So, but that would definitely be something that we would put in there for you. So as a thank you.
Writing a very thorough, like hand calligraphed thank you for this elaborate
virtual
basket.
A fantasy thank you note. Thank you.
Yes, I'm writing a fantasy note for you.
Perfect. We love it. So this has been such a treat for us. Thank you so much. There's probably a million things about that. It would have been lovely too, but I have a feeling I'll have a chance to ask you more questions in my own time in the future.
I hope so. I look forward to it. Yes.
Wonderful.
Both of you, thank you so much for coming on. Anna, it was great seeing you again. I miss you so much, and I can't wait until we get to hang out again. So nothing but love. That was a horrible heart. Let me try that again.
Oh, same. I got pinkies in the way.
I can't do it, but I know what you're. But thank you so much. For everybody watching, I really enjoyed this interview. This was a great time. Join us next week where we're going to have, I can't pronounce it. I'm sorry,
Kiva.
Duchess Kiva.
I spelled it
On-
phonetically for you.
Oh, thank you so much. I appreciate you. Of Ontier, we'll be interviewing her next week. And thank you so much. Everyone, have a great night. And
Good night, everyone.
Good night. Thank you.
Thank you.